Hello, everyone. It's JV Jones. Very important information to share with you. National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump gave a press conference in Washington, D.C. He is filing a lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson on behalf of the National Council of Negro Women. I'm just getting choked up thinking about it. It was a very emotional day. And Johnson & Johnson targeted women of color knowing that their talcum powder products were unsafe and may cause ovarian cancer. I use the products. Friends, relatives, so many people have used these products. And we have to get checked out. So there's a lot of good information in the press conference, so please listen to it in its entirety. And if you have any questions or comments, please hit me up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, JV Jones Cares. So I'm just thankful that I'm able to bring this information to you, and let's just save some lives. Thank you.
Napoli from Napoli Skolnick Law Firm and bringing this lawsuit. Also with him is Chris LaPalo, as well as we have attorney Monique Presley, who works with me. We have also present Rosalind Hannibal Booker, who is the Director of Philanthropy for the National Council of Negro Women. But most importantly, we have the victims of this corporate greed. The faces, the real faces of the people who have been taken from us because of Johnson & Johnson's deceptive marketing to Black women. We have Ms. Lydia Houston. We have Ms. Wanda Tidline. We have Ms. Gloria Lassiter. We have Ms. Constance Sessler. We have Ms. Cornelia Hobbs. We have Ms. Brenda Hobbs, and we have Mr. Samuel Hobbs. Before I let Ms. Mathis speak directly to you about the mission of why the National Council of Negro Women exists and how it is connected to this cause in particular, and before Attorney Paul Napoli tells you about this thought-provoking lawsuit, I would be remiss if I did not say exactly what this lawsuit is about. It is about the lives of our grandmothers, our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our nieces, and our wives, and how they were sinisterly targeted by Johnson & Johnson, this multi-billion-dollar corporation, who their corporate executives knew about the link between talcum, baby powder, and ovarian cancer. And you see in the 1990s, when they started to write in the newspapers about this connection, there are internal documents that talk about there was a drop-off between white women using the baby powder. But they observed that there was no drop-off, Janice, between Black women and Hispanic women using the baby powder. And so Paul, they doubled their efforts in marketing to black women. And that is what is so sinister about it. And that's why we cannot let them get away with this injustice. Our mothers, many who have been lost to this, would have never let them get away with it. So we owe it to our mothers not to let Johnson & Johnson get away with this. When you think about it, Johnson & Johnson is trying to victimize these women, these black women, even now. It wasn't enough, Wanda, for them to victimize our black women while they were living or battling cancer. But now they are trying to limit the liability of trying to make black women whole. It speaks to me as I stand in this historic building, it speaks to me, Janice Mathis, that even in the death of many of our black women who succumbed to this ovarian cancer, they are still trying to marginalize them and not make them whole. It harkens back to when black people were counted as 3/5 of a human being, not as a whole person. Where Johnson & Johnson, we declare with this lawsuit that we are going to make you acknowledge black women as whole persons, not 3/5 of a person. And so we have all the conviction in the world. Attorney Paul Napoli and our law firm and Jim Monder and many other lawyers around the country have taken up the stand with these black women and say your voice will be heard. And you will hear their voices today. Because black women have always been the backbone of this country. Standing up for everyone, but receiving the least amount of respect, including substandard health care, lower wages, and being targeted, Paul Napoli, by multi-billion-dollar corporations like Johnson & Johnson for profit. Well, it is time that we stand up for black women. And that's why we're proud to stand up with the National Council of Negro Women, Dr. Jael B. Cole, and Executive Director Janice Mathis, on behalf of black women all over America. We can never thank you enough for bringing this lawsuit to try to prevent us losing more black women. Ms. Mathis and my law partner are going to talk about how important it is for early detection. You're going to hear from Wanda Tidline how important it is that we make black women aware that they are some of the most susceptible people in America to contract this ovarian cancer because of the baby powder usage. My heart is awfully heavy as I introduce this champion for justice, a proud black woman, a great black woman, a leader for black women, my dear friend Janice Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Crump. Before I get started, I want to say, first of all, to these families and members of NCNW who are gathered here today. My heart goes out. I know what it's like to lose a mother to cancer. I know what it's like to lose a grandmother to cancer. I was only a young child, but I believe that my grandmother succumbed to ovarian cancer. That was way back in 1962, so I won't prove it now. But I can't help but think about Kitty Mae Brock as I stand here today, because that's a large part of why I am here. Like Black women everywhere, I have a story. Yes, I have a job with a prestigious organization, and we have a mission to lead, advocate for, and empower women of African descent, their families, and communities. Yes, we have more than 2 million members. Yes, we have 350 chapters in 32 states, but that's not the real reason that we're here, because NCNW does not ordinarily file litigation. Ordinarily, we are in the education and information business, as my colleague Rosalind Hamilton Booker can attest. This is something unusual for the National Council of Negro Women. Why were we persuaded to get involved in this case? Because the studies show that Black women got treated later in the course of the disease, which made it harder to treat, that they were less insured. Remember, before the Affordable Care Act, who could afford thousands and thousands of dollars worth of treatment if you weren't insured? And then we talk about the social determinants of health, and there is sort of a, well, it's your own fault. You should have gone to the doctor sooner. Then we find out that the doctors are not giving Black women the same advice that they give white women. And so you're in a kind of a catch-22 without insurance, later in the disease, not getting good advice. And then add to that a corporation that is intentionally targeting you at places like Essence, where you go to have fun and meet your friends and your family. Ebony magazine, Jet. Which of us don't trust those publications and those entities? Not that they were at fault. They didn't know. Those organizations didn't know what the evidence shows us that Johnson & Johnson knew. They knew early on that it was almost impossible to mine talc without it being contaminated with asbestos. And that is the knowledge, that criminally negligent knowledge is what brings us to this podium today to fight on behalf of our members. We're not looking for a big settlement. The only thing I want is a commitment from Johnson & Johnson that they will, in some degree, to some small degree, rectify the mistakes of their past, the oversights of their past, the discrimination and abusive relationships. They knew they had a defective product. We know they knew it because they've taken it off the market. You can't buy it now. But what about those people who still have it in their system and don't even know that this problem exists? That's why I am here today, to help spread the information and the knowledge, just like we did with HIV and AIDS decades ago. We went on college campuses all over this country, explaining to girls in very graphic terms what they needed to do to protect themselves from HIV. Just like we're doing today with COVID. I've got this button on because everywhere I go, I'm encouraging people to take the vaccines. Don't believe the disinformation. And we're gonna mount a campaign to make sure that every Black woman and her family in this country understands that you may have a lurking, secret illness that you need to get treatment and diagnosis and care for. I know I'm sounding a little emotional, and I'm not ordinarily a very emotional person, but this goes right to the core of who we are as Black women and what we are as the National Council of Negro Women. I'm grateful to these lawyers, and I'm grateful to these families who would open up their hearts. I can remember being a little girl and you didn't use the C word, you didn't say cancer. It was verboten, it was a stigma. They wouldn't even talk about the fact that somebody had cancer as if it were contagious, and they didn't know. But we know better now, and because we know better, we can do better. And that's why we're here today. And Paul, will you come and talk about the lawsuit, since I talk about everything else?
Sure. And again, I would just thank you for that historical and cultural perspective, because as Janice and I talked, she said that it was offensive that they tried to tell black women that you needed this baby powder because your hygiene was not up to par and you should use it abundantly. And like my mama, Janet, talked about her family and Wanda and Barbara, how we would cake it on is what I think you said, Lydia, every day of their lives. And so that's why Paul's ingenious lawsuit to address this is so important. I will let him just talk about how we start to repair the harm. And this is just a start to try to repair the harm. These women also have claims for the lives that were taken of their mothers and their sisters and their daughters.
Thank you, Ben. So we're going to have copies of the complaint that was filed this morning in New Jersey, in Johnson & Johnson's home state, and we'll provide you a copy after the conference. But what is this case about, and why the National Council of Negro Women? Well, there is no greater voice in this nation than this association for black women. They have over 2 million members. Some of them are here with us today, and they have a voice, and it's germane to their purpose to provide education, not only in school, but also on health care, like we talked about with AIDS and with COVID. And so what this lawsuit does, it allows the association to get out there to compel Johnson & Johnson to spend as much money as they did in advertising to sell their product to African American women, to force them with injunctive relief to pay that much money to warn women of the latent effects of using talcum powder and the possibility that they're going to develop ovarian cancer. Women who've used talcum powder, particularly African American women, are at greater risk of developing ovarian cancer. And African American women are also at greater risk of dying because they learn about the problem later on and they have to be warned. So what this lawsuit is hoping to do is first get Johnson & Johnson to spend the money to warn women, to use their resources, use the resources of the National Council to warn women to get early detection for potential ovarian cancer. So the lawsuit is seeking corrective action of Johnson & Johnson, and also to seeking medical monitoring to try to provide that initial stage of surveillance to these women. And there's really no greater partner than the National Council of Negro Women in getting that message out. And that's what this lawsuit hopes to do, and hopes to do it as soon as possible. When you have any product that's is contaminated with asbestos, like this baby powder was, we know that there are long latency periods. We see it in mesothelioma and in lung cancer, and it's also true with ovarian cancer. You may have stopped using the product 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and you're still at risk because it creates an inflammatory process in a woman's ovaries that over and over can eventually cause ovarian cancer. So even women who stopped 10 years ago, 20 years ago, need to be aware of the risk. And Johnson & Johnson should spend the hundreds of millions of dollars it did in selling these products to these women to now warn them of the dangers. So I know you don't want to hear from me as much as you want to hear from some of the women. Wanda, if you could come up, oh, you want Wanda to be last? Okay. I will hand it over back to Ben.
No. And I want to thank Paul Napoli and Napoli Skolnick, because they were very creative in coming up with a cause of action that could say, let's try to prevent some of these deaths. Tragically, we've lost far too many people, and as Paul and us was talking, Janet, we talked about, well, is there anything we can do to try to prevent more death. And the key is early detection. But unfortunately, as Janice said, oftentimes black women don't have the health care coverage, the resources to get proper medical care. So Johnson & Johnson, if you want to show us that you're a good citizen, well, here's your opportunity. Don't fight this lawsuit, embrace it, and do the right thing to prevent these deaths. Do the right thing to make these women whole. Do the right things to make Lydia Hudson's mother whole. You will not hear from Lydia Hudson.
Hi, my name is Lydia Houston. This is my mother, Valerie Renee Pye Swan. She was a mother of 2, grandmother of 8. She was married and a great-grandmother as well. She worked in a factory her entire life. She was a phenomenal cook. She loved to crochet. She loved to take care of the people that she loved. She was a jewel, and in my eyes, an angel here on earth. We had a routine, and it involved hygiene, a very clean home, and a very clean body. And just like deodorant, soap, lotion, and toothpaste, talcum powder was a part of the daily routine that she had for over 35 years. In October 31st, 2014, we lost my mother to ovarian cancer. And it had not only spread to her rectum, her pancreas, as well as her lungs. And I miss her dearly, and I want justice for her.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. Now we will hear from Ms. Constance Seltzer. She's going to tell you about her mother.
Good afternoon.
You get on the side.
My name is Constance Seltzer, and Gully Hose. That's my grandmother. And my mom's mother.
My grandmother.
She passed away in May the 2nd, 2018, from ovarian cancer. And as a little girl, she taught us to use talcum powder. You know, she would put it down when like I said, from a baby. We all everybody in the family used it. And she was the matriarch of this family. She was my glue. She held this family together. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss my grandma. I just want justice for my grandma.
Thank you, Ms. Massey. And next, we will have Ms. Gloria Lassiter and Cornelia Hobbs, Brenda Hobbs, and Samuel Hobbs Jr. come and tell you about their sister.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Lassiter, and Gertrude Walker was my sister. And I love her very dearly. And I used to tell her every day before I go to work, I love you. She said, I love you too. And I took care of her real good. I was at the hospital. I slept there all night long. Got up in the morning, went to get us coffee. And then before I got ready to go to work, I went home, got ready to go to work. And then after I left from work, I went straight back to the hospital and stayed with her all night long because she had to have oxygen, and most of the time it would slip out her nose. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and put the oxygen back in her nose and everything. And I took care real good of my sister, and I love her dearly. We was only a year apart. And after our mother died and everything, she was like a mother to all of us, and all of us really loved her. And she really took good care of her nieces, her nephew, and she loved everybody, and the kids in the neighborhood and everything. They love her. Everybody say, Aunt Dee Dee, even though she wasn't there, Aunt. but she just loved everybody, and I loved her so much, and I miss her so much. Because even when I was living upstairs in an apartment, I moved downstairs on the floor so that I could push her back and forth to the door so she can look out. Because that ovarian cancer, it really ate my sister up. Ate up to nothing but skin and bone. But I never messed with the ovarian cancer, but she always liked to be clean. So that's the reason why she always used that powder. And I miss her so much. I really do.
My name is Cornelia Hobbs, and this is my sister, Deanna. Well, we call it Deanna, and her name is Gertrude Walker. And she had babysat. She babysat. She had babysat for the whole family, and everybody. My sister said everybody, even neighbors, and we didn't live across the street from each other, but every day she was at my house, I was at her house, and she was the mother hen to my baby sister children. She took them in when my baby sister couldn't take care of her kids herself. And she died before she could see them all grown. And but it's hurting, and it's a terrible thing that what had happened to her, because like I said, everybody loved her. I mean, if you all got to know her, you all would love her, because I mean, she just was that kind of person. She would bring sunshine to everybody, even if it was a storm, rainy day or whatever, and just as sweet as she could be. And like I say, she mothered my children, because I work. She mothered my sister's children, our neighbor's children, everybody. And like, I just can't go on, and I miss her dearly. I really do, because she was the apple of my eye, and my big sister, as I call her, she was a little big sister, but oh Lord, I love her to death. I mean, the more than I put it like that, because she brought me up and taught me a lot of things, too. When my mother was living, my mother passed, and we all used that Johnson and Johnson talcum powder. And but when she came down with the ovarian, I mean, I was so sad, and because then I had to cut it loose, because I said, I don't know what was wrong, but I mean, I just couldn't deal with it. Like this young lady was saying earlier about they would bread up on it, and used it every day and all, and so did our family, because that's what we was taught, how to be clean and to keep from first time, keeping everything nice and clean below. And all, but I really miss my sister. Like I say, I really truly. It broke my heart. It broke my heart when she cut back. Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to me.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Hobbs, and I was with my sister. I used to live with her back in 1973 when I came back from overseas. And as I know, she had the Johnson and Johnson product. It was one in a white bottle and one was in a blue. And so I guess one was scented and one was unscented, but she used them, like they say, sometimes twice a day, if not three, because she wanted to make sure that she was clean at all times. And because of her, I got to use it a little, but I didn't stay with it like she did. She was using it clean up to 1999, the last time that I know that she had. And then that's when, a little bit after that, she went to Richmond, Virginia, and then they diagnosed her with ovarian cancer. And it's hard for, my family, even now, because all my nieces, my nephews, my grandchildren, they are still asking for her today. And all I can tell them, I say, she's going to be with Jesus, because we don't know nothing else. So, to comfort their hearts. So it kind of, wears on you after a while. And me, I was with her on the day she died, and it did something to me, because this is one sister that we all expected to be around a long time, and for her life to be shortened because of the ovarian cancer. just took a toll. It took a deep toll on the whole family. So yes, I too would like to see Johnson and Johnson, you know, do their part on getting things straight, you know, because so many black families are suffering because of it.
My name is Samuel Hobbs, and I'm here on behalf of my sister, Gertrude Walker, better known as Edie or Deanna. Ovarian cancer ended her life, and I knew little about talcum powder and everything else, but after finding out about what it does and what it can do and did do, I have to make a stand with these ladies. So I'm just here to say my sister's gone too soon behind Johnson & Johnson.
Thank you all very much, Hobbs family. And finally, before we take a few of your questions, is a young lady who is here to be able to speak for herself. Everybody else was speaking for their lost loved ones. But Ms. Wanda Tidline is here today to speak for herself and talk about the false sense of security that the advertisement, the marketing from Johnson & Johnson gave her, and the reality of the medical diagnosis that it was not safe, as Johnson & Johnson alleged. Ms. Wanda Tidline.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank the National Council of Negro Women for this platform. My name is Wanda Tidline. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2012. I'm a survivor twice of this awful disease. There's no history of ovarian cancer in my family. And I have to deduce that it developed because of the many, many years that I used Johnson & Johnson baby powder. Because of the advertising, I felt it was safe. It was something that was used in my family by women mainly from birth till, I believe, my early 20s possibly. But I felt confident in the product because where it was advertised on television and the literature that I read. And all these years later, my life has been adversely affected. It's been very traumatic. It's been very scary. It's been very painful. And I'm still dealing with it to this day because I still have to have treatment to fight the disease. I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed to stand here with these families that they can identify, but I'm here to be a voice because I'm alive. I'm very blessed.
Amen.
And I stand here with these families to fight this. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation who advertised that their product was safe. And we've all been impacted in a negative way. And I want to be here to let people know that this could be a possibility for them. And I don't want anybody else to experience the trauma that I've been through and I'm currently going through. So if I'm here to be a champion for that, to keep women safe, and particularly black women, which I am one, that I'm here to be that voice. And I think that, I'm grateful for the attorneys and everybody fighting for this. And I pray that Johnson & Johnson does the right thing to make everyone whole. At least do that much. Thank you.
And Wanda is a prima facie evidence that it can happen to anyone. She is a college-educated black woman at Howard University. Hampton University. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, the same sorority that our Vice President Kamala Harris is a member of. and she is intelligent as anybody else. But she believed Johnson & Johnson's advertisement. She had no reason not to believe them until she got the medical diagnosis that they were lying to her. And thank God she's here to give a voice for all of those that are not here to tell about how they were lied to as well. So thank you, Wanda.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Be blessed.
So, Janice, do you want to say one more thing about the age?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about NCNW was formed in 1935, and we've got members who've been members of NCNW 50 years or more, some of them. If we did a cross-section of our membership, you would find that many of our members fit squarely in the demographic of people who were using the talcum powder at the height of the advertisement that was going on while the product was still on the market. Probably half our members are over the age of 50. And so you're talking about a targeted population of folk who are right in that age range where they need to be warned and advised. And we urge Johnson & Johnson to join us in this education and humanitarian effort to do so.
Thank you so much, Janice. And again, I want to give a big round of applause to the National Council of Negro Women. So Attorney Paul Napoli and Ms. Mathis and I will try to answer some of your questions if you have any. The families, obviously, it's emotional. They will try to answer some of them, but just like we did with the children of Flint, Paul, we stand ready again to fight for marginalized citizens of color. Yes, sir.
I have a question that it really is more for Ms. Wanda. What message would you have for people like my own mother who use these products, that they're in that 50+ age range, who may not know that they were exposed to this? How can people catch it early?
Well, I guess we need media, all forms of media, to let people know. Money for advertising to say, hey, if you use these products between this time and this time, you could be susceptible to this. So we need powerful arms, information. We know what information can do. We know what misinformation can do.
But what advice do you have for people who are going to be watching this story? Should women
go get tested? Go to the doctor. If you think that you could have been subjected to this, see your doctor. That's how I went to the doctor, and I was lucky enough to find out, and I'm standing here. By the grace of God and medicine and prayers, I'm here. But unfortunately, there are many women that aren't here. So I say, if you hear about this thing, please go see your doctor. Go get tested. Early detection is the best medicine to help you, really. That's what I would say.
All right. Did your doctors tell you how big a difference it made that it was able to be caught early?
Yes. Early, because if it had been any later, I more than likely wouldn't be here. So I was very lucky that it was early. So that's what I would say. Early detection for anything. Any kind of disease is always, more than likely treatable.
Especially for ovarian cancer.
Yes.
And Paul and Janice, will y'all speak to that? Because I know that's the basis of this lawsuit. Janice will go first and then Paul.
Well, there's one other fact too, and that is that most women get a routine pap smear ever so often. But a routine pap smear will not most times reveal early stage ovarian cancer. So you have to say to your doctor, I use talcum powder, Johnson & Johnson baby powder, and I need to be checked for ovarian cancer. You have to be very specific. One of the things we do at NCNW is try to make sure our members are savvy consumers of health information. You got to know your own body. Tell them what you suspect and that you want to have it ruled out.
And that's the perfect reason why we partner with NCNW. Paul, I think isn't that the whole basis for the lawsuit?
Absolutely. Community outreach is the most important aspect of this lawsuit. Getting out the word, using the resources of the National Council, giving the right message. That's what this lawsuit is seeking. Undo the years and years of lies that this was safe products to be used over and over again. Get out the message of why you withdrew the product from the market. Get out the message that you've known about this problem for 20, 30, 40 years. Get out the message that you need to tell your healthcare provider that you were exposed and to look for these potential problems early. Because we know if you catch it early, you're going to have a greater health outcome if you catch it early.
And not just the NCNW, but because they have such a large organ, we can go into the black churches, the black sororities and fraternities, the different Jack and Jill organizations, everywhere we can to try to combat 50 years of misinformation. That's what we're fighting. 50 years of misinformation. And it's not going to happen overnight. And this multi-billion-dollar company, as we talk about in the lawsuit, should dedicate as many resources as they did and given warning to these women as they did trying to target these women.
And one of the things we did not talk about, but has been out there in the press in recent days, is Johnson & Johnson has been saying that they are looking to take the liabilities from talc and move them to a separate company, which they intend to bankrupt. And what does that mean? That means that Johnson & Johnson's going to get off scot-free. And these women and the deceased are not going to be made whole. They're going to get away with paying part of the debt, and they should be responsible for paying full debt. So we're hoping that some bills that are being introduced, hopefully in the Senate, will prevent Johnson & Johnson from utilizing what's known as the Texas two-step to evade liability and responsibility. And we're hoping that what happened in opioids, where the Sacklers got away with tens of billions of dollars hidden and secreted away after killing hundreds of thousands of people, does not happen with talc. Johnson & Johnson should be responsible not only for the victims in the past, but also for the victims in the future, because as I said earlier, there's a long latency period for these products, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And if they're going to be the responsible company that they say they are, then they should pay those people into the future and not try to skirt that responsibility.
Yeah. And we understand that Senator Elizabeth Warren is contemplating proposed legislation to address this, as well as, and within the last hour, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is co-sponsoring a bill with Chairman Jerry Nadler in the House of Representatives to address these issues, because they think it's only right and proper to stand up for these black women, even if Johnson & Johnson still refuses to stand up for them and try to make them be 3/5 of a person. Are there any other questions? If not, we're going to provide you all with the complaints, as well as we will keep you updated on the proposed legislation as it makes its way through the United States Congress. Thank you very much for standing up with these women and to get their message out that their lives matter, that black women's lives matter, Johnson & Johnson. And thank you to the National Council of Negro Women.
Thank you, everybody.
And that's right.
Contact information, ncnw.org. Our health website is goodhealthwins.org. And our email address is
NCNWHQ at NCNW.
ncnwhq@ncnw.org.
Greetings, I'm Dr. Rhonda L. Hamilton, and I am the president of the Healthy DC and Me Leadership Coalition, as well as I am the executive director for the MI Mother's Keeper Mental Health Advocacy Organization right here in the nation's capital. Today's press conference was a wonderful and refreshing step in the right direction towards justice. So many of our beautiful African American queens have trusted the Johnson & Johnson baby powder product, and their health has been placed in danger as a result of this. We are calling out to all of our beautiful women across all sectors in the community to please get checked if you yourself have been a user of the Johnson & Johnson baby powder talcum product. We're also asking that our women in the mental health community be given special considerations to make sure that their health hasn't been placed in danger, as they too may have been users of this product. We are so excited to see the National Council for Negro Women stand with Attorney Ben Crump and Attorney Napoli to call out the corporate giants of Johnson & Johnson. Shame on you, corporations, for continuing to target our African American communities. Thank you, Ben Crump. Thank you, Mr. Napoli, for calling them out. Get checked and make sure that your health is fine, and join the fight for justice.